I already know I blew this show, but let's try again anyway. On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, Joe Russo took a little bit of a jab at Martin Scorsese. Was it really no big deal, or was it crossing a line? Also, Netflix is now reporting they have 15 million subscribers to their ad-supported tier. And hey, watch 3 ad shows, get your 4th ad show with no ads. Also, Chris Pratt, the first look at his new Garfield design has come out. Major actors in Hollywood have been told to get ready for the end of the strike that's coming up quickly, they said. And Deadpool 3 ain't going to be the name of Deadpool 3. We're going to get a new title, says the director. That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our sponsor, Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but giving you some information, context, and background so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or a bit different from ours. Joining us today, Ray Ora.
Hey.
Jonathan Voico's here.
What's going on?
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Hello.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thanks for being here, making the show part of your day. And here's how the show's going to go. We're going to start off by going over those topics that I listed off. Then in the last part of the show, we're going to take your questions. We're taking questions from our beloved YouTube channel members. We put up a post a little bit earlier in our community tab for our channel members, asking them to submit topics as we do every day. And also, for those of you who are watching live, you can use the super chat feature in the live chat to submit a question or a topic. And right near the end of the show, if your topic or question is appropriate, we will address those a little bit later on. All right, guys. That down, let's dive into it, shall we? We're going to start with this. Joe Russo, one half of Joe and Anthony Russo, also known as the Russo brothers, who, of course, directed Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Winter Soldier, Civil War, stuff like that. He got on TikTok the other day, took a little jab there at old Martin Scorsese. Now, look, before we get into it, let me profess and come clean here. I know Joe and Anthony Russo a bit. I've had the privilege of having them come into my studio on a number of occasions. You can check this out here. They've come in a number of times and come in and done stuff with us. They also sent in video messages for us on my other shows and things like that. I really like these guys a lot. I like them tremendously. Now, you guys who watch my show also know that I've been more than a little, I'm not going to say critical, but critiquey. I've been a little critiquey of all the stuff that they've put out since their days at Marvel. I don't think they've knocked one out of the park since leaving Marvel, but I still think they're terrific guys. So there you go. So for those of you who might have missed it, Martin Scorsese, the great Martin Scorsese, had a little fun TikTok video go out that was made by his daughter, either his daughter or his granddaughter, one of the two. And Martin Scorsese said something cute along the lines of, I'm going to direct the dog. Mm-hmm. And he brought over his dog, and his dog's name literally is Oscar for the Oscar-winning director. So why not? So Joe Russo then made a follow-up TikTok to that and said, oh, I love dogs, basically. But then said the name of his dog. It's said better by the folks over at Variety, who said the following. Avengers filmmaker Joe Russo has caused quite a stir on social media for posting a response to recent TikTok featuring Martin Scorsese. The Oscar winner's daughter, there it is, daughter, not granddaughter, Francesca posted a TikTok this month in which Scorsese playfully directs his dog, Oscar. Russo responded by posting a video in which he tells Scorsese that they share the same muse, that they both love dogs. The camera pans out to reveal Russo is holding his own dog, whom he jokingly calls Box Office. Russo's video is clearly trying to be playful, but it has rubbed many in the film writers and industry professionals the wrong way. Now that comes to us from Variety. And, here's the thing. You know what? I already totally forgot. We're not going to do it now. This was supposed to be a Mint Mobile hotline question. I totally forgot the Mint Mobile hotline question, but I've already given all the background. So there you go. Before I tell you what I think about Joe Russo's little joke, it is impossible to talk about this without remembering the context that Martin Scorsese, who I adore, and I love, Mount Rushmore of directors, whole bit, can't possibly give him more respect than I have in me, right? Martin Scorsese has talked mad shit about not just Joe Russo's films, but the entire genre that Joe Russo has been in. He's called his films not really cinema, no emotional weight. He's literally talked about Joe Russo's films as being a threat to the film industry. I mean, make no mistake about it. I don't care what side of this you're on. Martin Scorsese has talked a lot of shit about Joe Russo's movies. He's never said Joe Russo by name. True enough. But he's literally talked about how we have to fight back against those kinds of films. Not only insulting the people who make those films, but also insulting the people who enjoy those films. And whatever. It's Martin. He's one of the all-time greats. We let it go. So Joe Russo, his only responses to those have ever been, I love Martin Scorsese's films. That's been his and Anthony's only responses in the last couple of years. It's like, hey, we don't like hearing that, but Martin's one of our all-time icons. He's been one of our major influences. We love Martin Scorsese, blah, blah, blah. So Martin makes a little video with his dog that he named Oscar, which I think is fun. And Joe Russo literally makes a little joke. Says, I named mine Box Office. Was that a little jab? Absolutely it was. No doubt, of course. Yes, it was. It was a little jab.
But it's Scorsese from Queens. He should be able to take jabs.
He should, yeah.
Yes.
Come on, New York tough guy. And by the way, Martin Scorsese hasn't said a thing about this because he is a New York tough guy.
Yeah, because he doesn't care.
Because he doesn't care, because he's bigger than that. So Joe Russo took a little bit of a jab. Number one, it was clearly a joke. Variety said it best. With the part what it says, the video was clearly trying to be playful. It was a joke. Not only was it a joke, it was a harmless joke. It was totally harmless. And listen, if you want to measure out who dealt it out the worst, it was Scorsese. Scorsese started it. Scorsese, you know what this is akin to? Guy walking up behind you and smacking your mother in the face and you going, you jerk. And then people going, how can you call him a jerk? He totally ignored what he did, right? And I've seen some of the responses. Some absolute pansies.
Oh, just
online.
Like, they'll never remember this guy in 50 years.
Yeah, like some bullshit. Like somebody, I think at Warner Brothers, somebody at Warner Brothers is like, over that little joke, here's my dog, Box Office, right? Over that little joke. Some loser at Warner Brothers, got his knickers all stuffed up his pucker hole, said, well, I don't think we're going to be talking about Joe Russo films in 20 years. Really? Because when I look up at the top of the all-time box office films, I see a few Joe Russo films up there near the top. Just saying. Is Joe Russo anywhere near the director that Martin Scorsese is? Of course fucking not. He's not. But anyway, he's like, oh, we're not going to be talking about Joe Russo films in 20 years, but we'll talk about Martin Scorsese. Some others going, like some fucking whatever film festival representative going,
his name.
Joe Russo is just a talentless hack. He's an asshole, blah, blah, blah. Over a little joke of holding up his dog and saying, this is Box Office. When compared to the mad shit that Martin Scorsese did, and we all talked about that ad nauseum, and it's all in the past, whatever. But that little joke, that's what got you upset? Fuck you. Anyway, that's kind of, by the way, Rob, I don't ever think directors should take shots at other directors. I don't think Joe Russo should have made the video, but he did. It was, in my opinion, it was harmless. He shouldn't have done it. I don't like when any directors ever take shots at other directors. I think you leave that for other people to do. I don't like when actors take shots at other actors. I just don't think there's a need for that. But you saw this. You and I haven't talked about it. We started talking about it when we went, whoa, no, let's wait till the show starts. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I think there is a tradition in Hollywood of directors being playful about the idea of box office. And we going all the way back to Jaws being the #1 movie. Then when Star Wars beat Jaws, there were variety ads, trade ads taken. And then when Titanic beat E.T., then James Cameron took out an ad. So there is...
and to follow that up, by the way, when Endgame passed Avatar, James Cameron put this great piece of art together honoring Endgame and put out thing. And then when Avatar retook the #1 spot, the Russos did the same thing. They put out this thing honoring Avatar.
Yeah, I mean, look, and I think that our civilization has become so thin-skinned and so humorless that I think that on TikTok, first of all, it's on TikTok. It was a funny joke. And I don't think it's taking a shot. No one, I'm sure Martin Scorsese is revered by Joe Russo, and he's doing something that was fun and playful. But on the other hand, I do want to mention that, Martin Scorsese wasn't targeting his film specifically. He was talking about a genre. The superhero genre has dominated studio filmmaking, and as we've seen, especially in the case of Warner Brothers in DC, as we've talked about on this show, hasn't done well for DC. I mean, hasn't done well for Warner Brothers. And, the diversification of the kinds of movies we saw it this summer, Barbie and Oppenheimer, prove that there is still a hunger out there for we talked about Barbie being a new IP, but still, Barbie, I watched it the other night. I showed an 87-year-old doctor, Barbie, and not his thing. He was like, that was a very interesting film. And I was like, there is a hunger for people to get new and interesting ideas, whether they're IP-based or whether they're original, and Barbie and Oppenheimer proved that. And I think that Joe and Anthony Russo, look, I think that Infinity War and Endgame are two of the greatest, not just superhero movies, but fantasy films, science fiction films ever made. And I think that, I bet if Martin Scorsese sat down and watched both of those movies, even without context, he'd probably agree. Like, this is amazing that you've created this much emotion throughout this whole, no, Mr. Stark, I bet Spider-Man would make Martin Scorsese cry. I have no reason, I can't prove that, but I think people need to lighten up in the sense that when you've got two people that are secure in their careers, and I hope Martin Scorsese comes back and goes, well, without your superhero movies, your output leaves something to be desired. No, I don't think he would do that, and that's not fair.
And I don't think you'd necessarily be wrong.
Right. Well, I know, right? But no, I think we just, what happened to the playfulness in our civilization? I mean, can't you take a shot at somebody and be, take your lumps?
Also, what if his dog is named Box Office? Then this whole thing is just
for nothing.
Who says his dog's not named Box Office? I think it's a great name. I actually like B.
And if it's not, he soon will have a dog named Box
Very
Office.
Well, but it brings me back to the thing, because I was reading one of the articles. I think it was the one in Deadline that recalled some of the words Martin Scorsese said. That there's no emotional truth in these films, right? But to your point, because you just made me think of this, like, I've been in the theater for a lot of Martin Scorsese films. I was a little bit too young to be in theaters to see some of his, I didn't see Taxi Driver in theater when it first came out, stuff like that. But I will say this, I have never heard an entire movie theater audibly weep and wail. Like, not cheer, weep and cry in any Martin Scorsese film I've been in theater. And granted, I haven't been at all of them because some of them were a little bit before I was going to the movies. But I mean, like, when you get into something like Infinity War and you get Tom Holland going, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark, like all that kind of stuff.
When he turned into a Southern belle.
That's basically.
I declare.
I declare.
Mr. Starks.
It's like molasses in your mouth. If anybody knows that reference, I'd be very impressed. But it's like, that, or T'Challa disappearing. Like, I heard people in the, like, not just everybody weeping and sobbing. Like, I heard women wailing, like when T'Challa started to disappear. Like,
the lamentations of the women.
Like movies, right, we talk about this all the time.
Out in
Right?
4K.
Movies are experiential events. And Martin Scorsese is a master at delivering one kind of an emotional experience, But there are many other movies, whether it's, Annie Hall, or whether it's 40-Year-Old Virgin, or whether it's Avengers Infinity War. There are many other types of emotional experiences that different films tend to give to us, and one is not better than the other. It's all about having an emotional experience, and their films delivered that.
And John, I think another, to your point, I'm always talking about how pop culture has like a 20-year half-life. We didn't have the technology 30 years ago to make superhero films the way we do now. Advances in digital technology has allowed filmmakers to bring visions to the screen of these characters that frankly were impossible 30 years ago. I mean, I go back to Superman the movie, which still to me is one of the greatest comic book movies ever made. But let's face it, the flying effects are a little creaky.
It hasn't aged great.
I mean, I like the film itself, and I would put up the first 30 minutes of that movie against any superhero film in terms of its the way it evokes emotion. When Glenn Ford says, "I know you are here for a reason," it's emotionally, and Scorsese comes from a different generation than Joe and Anthony Russo do, and Joe and Anthony Russo did what George Lucas did for science fiction with Star Wars. Captain America, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. You take those 4 films, if those are the only 4 films the Russo brothers ever make, they defined what's possible in an entire genre. Yeah. And you can never take that away from them.
I agree. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? Netflix, they made the move, of course, last year, you remember, to having an ad-supported tier, to which some people, including me, had some doubt whether or not a lot of people would want to go and, once having ad-free, would want to revert back to an ad-supported. Well, guess what? Those people and me were wrong. Because according to a new report, Netflix now has 15 million people are signed up to the ad-supported tier. And that is a number that's gone up a lot. This comes to us from the folks over at The Verge who write the following. Netflix will soon start cutting down on commercials if you're on a binge watching kick. Starting at the beginning of next year, the streamer will toss in an ad-free episode after you've watched 3 episodes in a row. In addition to the binge watching update, Netflix also reported that its ad-supported plan has attracted 15 million monthly active users in the year following its launch. Now get this. That's a sign that the ad tier is still growing, as Netflix reported only 5 million monthly active users using ads just in May. So from May to now, they have tripled the number of ad-supported subscribers that they have. Now, we've talked about this before. It's like you may be wondering, well, they've got a tier that's $22. Why are they wanting people to be on this $6.99 tier? Because they make more money off Ray. If Ray has got the ad-supported tier at $6.99, they're actually making more money off Ray than, well, if he pays for any service. They're making more money off Ray. What I'm saying, though, is they're making more money off Ray at $6.99 than if Ray had the ad-free plan at $20. Because the ads are actually generating that much revenue for them. And they're actually trying to... Now, recently, that's why it's not a coincidence, when in the recent Netflix price increases, just a couple weeks ago when they bumped up the price on everything, what's the one tier they didn't raise prices on? Ad-supported, because they are trying to funnel us like sheep into that ad-supported tier. By the way, the other interesting thing in here, this new plan. Hey, if you sit down and binge watch, the 4th episode that you have to watch in a row, the 4th episode won't have commercials.
I like that.
Now, you can go out and have a life, maybe meet a nice girl, maybe brush up on your professional skills. Or, and hear me out, you can sit on your ass for 4 hours and we'll give you no commercials in the 4th episode.
One. That's the one I want.
Sold.
You can do all 3.
Or you can do all 3.
Online dating.
Just let it run. Just let it run, and then go out, and then come back a few hours later, and episode 4 will be there ready for you ad-free.
It's ready for you to go. Like, Netflix really wants you planting your fat ass on that couch with a big bowl of Doritos and just don't move for at least 4 hours.
That sounds amazing.
Right? It sounds like the perfect,
That's
a perfect
Are you
day.
describing heaven? That might be heaven, right?
Ray's like, have I died?
Anyway,
I do that every day.
Rob, some big moves coming from Netflix. Are 15 million. I've signed up for this. What do you think about this?
Well, first of all, you know, what's really interesting about this ad tier to me is obviously it harks back to the old network model of commercials, and that's how they based residuals. So I'm curious, how is the ad tier going to work with residuals, with the actor strike ending or whatever? That fascinates me. But two, you know, I think this is an option with the amount of streaming that is happening. A few bucks for a family of four can matter a lot in the long run.
It does.
And, you know, anybody, if they're going to have ad tiers across the board and it cuts in half, if you're going to get ad tiers on every streaming service, because I think everyone follows Netflix's lead, it's a good bet that you could cut the money you're paying for streamers in half. Yeah, you have to watch ads, but that could be a big deal for a lot of families on a fixed income or older people on a fixed income. I think it's a good thing, and I think the fact that it's been embraced and people have a choice, it's good. You know, and it's good for Netflix. It's good for the subscribers. It's probably going to be better for actors because they're going to have to be transparent because people are going to want to know how much their ads are generating, how many eyeballs do our ads get. But I'd say 15 million subscribers who are looking at ads on Netflix, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean that adds up a lot. Now, of course, the main way that in the old model of Hollywood, the main way residuals were generated was when shows went into syndication,
Right.
And other networks would pay licensing fees, and chunks of those licensing fees would then go to the actors or whatever stuff like that. I've got a better way. You need to save money? I got a better way. All right. So you could save $8 or $10 going to the ad-supported tier, or keep ad-free and get rid of your cat. Boom. Done. Get rid of your cat.
You're a terrible man.
You'll save
Terrible man.
so much.
That was the worst segue I've ever heard.
Just
That
saying.
is just not a segue. That wasn't anything.
It's kind
that
of a
was,
segue. We got a cat thing coming up here in just a minute.
wow,
Anyway,
I thought you were
crazy.
actually gonna
You know what,
drop-
Rob? Seriously, I believe places like Netflix and others that the streamers that have these ad support tiers, I think we are going to, on an annual or maybe even semi-annual basis, we're going to see them jacking up the prices to all the things till we pretty much feel like we have no choice but to go to an ad supported tier. And then once we're all on the ad supported tier, they're going to start jacking up the prices on that. But anyway, that's what it is working for them. Have to give them credit, man. It's working for them. All right.
My cat doesn't like you anymore.
With that down, let's stay on the topic of cats, shall we? One of my favorite things, when I was in grade school and we would have book fair day, one of the things, the first thing I looked for, was there a new edition of Jim Davis's Garfield. When I was a kid, man, in the book fair, that's what I wanted. I wanted the new Garfield collections. You remember them? Because they were kind of like, they weren't legitimate book sizes. They were like the more rectangle kind of size, like 16 by 9,
Yeah.
sort of thing that had all the comic strips in it. I loved Garfield. Then they had the Garfield cartoon, and I loved the cartoon. Then they had the Murray. Bill Murray versions, did not like those. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't like those. Well, Chris Evans, of course, has a Garfield movie coming out. Chris Pratt. I keep confusing the Chris. Yes,
One of the
Chris
Chris's.
Pratt. This one right here,
The non-cinema Chris.
has
He ain't no cinema.
no cinema.
Perfect for the role then.
He's got one coming out, and we've gotten our first look at the Garfield. This comes to us from Comic Book Movie, who write this. Chris Pratt managed to prove the haters wrong with his take on Mario, though the video game icon isn't the only iconic character he's set to play. Up next, everyone's favorite lasagna-loving cat, Garfield. Alongside Pratt, Garfield's impressive ensemble includes Samuel L. Jackson, who's been cast as Garfield's father, making this the first time we've met the character in any media. True, we never saw Garfield's father in any of the comic strips. Nicholas Hoult, I love Nicholas Hoult. Hannah Waddingham, that's the girl from Ted Lasso, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cecilia Strong, Ving Rhames. Oh, I love seeing when Ving Rhames pops up. Brett Goldstein, also from Ted Lasso, and Bowen Yang are going to be appearing in there as well. And we got a shot. This came from a social media post that they put out on the official Garfield movie social media account. It says, "Happy National Cat Day with our first look at the new animated Garfield. First thought is that it's flawless. I mean, that's it. That's that's the perfect Garfield
From the comic strip, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly. Right from the comic strip, right from the original animated stuff. They are clearly not going for a new iteration as far as the look of Garfield goes. And you know what? Here's the interesting thing too. Chris Pratt, not only has he starred in like Marvel films and Jurassic films and other
cinema.
big things, not real cinema, but he's also like started to make a real big name for himself in animation. Of course, he was the special in the Lego movies. He's got Mario Brothers. There was another big one that he did, and I'm freezing on it off the top of my head.
Wasn't it that Onward?
Onward that he did with Tom Holland. I'm getting all the last names wrong today.
Tom and Chris.
He's making a full career just doing animated stuff. All right. All that said, who's asking for a Garfield movie? Let me go back to what I started off this entire thing was. When I was a child, me, Rob, I don't know how to break this to you. You and I aren't in our 20s anymore.
Speak for yourself.
When I
Bedroom.
was a child.
What does that even mean?
Downtown, baby. Oh, I'm sorry. We're on air. My bad.
That, by the way, is my nightmare that I go to bed with every night of Ray forgetting we're on air and something coming out that just ends my career. That being said,
It's coming.
it's coming. What? Like, who's asking for another Garfield? I mean, my parents might be excited about this. I have some fond memories of Garfield, but newsflash, 14-year-olds aren't rushing to the newspaper. Does anybody even get those anymore? To rip them open and see the new Garfield strip. I just don't know that anybody cares about a Garfield movie coming. I don't know. Rob, you saw the image, the Chris Pratt connection. They're starting to promote the film now. What do you think about this overall?
Well, I was not a fan of the Garfield. I had a paper route. I didn't love the Garfield comic.
That's not a job anymore.
I understood why people did. I get it. I think Garfield was of a time. But that said, every IP is ripe for reinvention for another generation. And I think, Chris Pratt's brand of style, comedy style, the way he can bring a vocal styling, lyrical flow, as it were, as they say in the hip hop community, if he brings that to
Definitely in his 20s.
a modern day, maybe Garfield can be reinvented for a new generation and suddenly become relevant again.
I mean,
Miracles happen, John.
I get it. This is 20 years ago still, but the Garfield from 2004 made $200 million. So I don't know.
But is that good? Is that great?
Just I don't know, based on the budget,
I mean, that was Bill Murray, but that was the first one. How much did the second one make?
I think the second one wasn't that straight to video.
I don't think it was. I could be wrong. I mean, it was
Garfield: A Tale of Two Kitties made 143.
Although I'll give him marks for the title. I like it.
I mean,
although it also sounds like a Skinamax title, to be honest with you, but whatever.
I would assume that because Chris Pratt signed on, even though you could be cynical and go, he signed on because they paid him. But I think after the initial backlash of what happened with Mario Brothers and then what happened when it came out, I think Chris Pratt, he can spot good material. And I would hope, because I like Chris Pratt and I like his work, we can do something like Moneyball and then become Star-Lord. I mean, I want to see this movie. I'm not going to go see this movie, but I want this movie to be good. I want the audiences that are.
Well,
this
if you
is
hear
directed
it's
at.
good, will you go?
Yeah, what if it's
I would watch it.
I'm not going to lie. I don't think they should make this movie, but I'll go see it.
Chris Pratt.
I mean, what if it's akin
Chris
to like
Pratt?
Paddington or something? It just
Yes.
becomes like a sleeper,
because
really well written.
I was one of those people who's like, Paddington?
Yeah.
This looks stupid. Whatever, I'll go because I got to review it. No, I love Paddington. And by the way, I see a lot of the chat in the chat board here. People saying, "This is a terrible casting decision, Chris Pratt for Garfield. Terrible. It's like, where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, Mario.
Yeah, right.
How'd that turn out?
He's actually,
He's going to be like, I love a lasagna.
He's actually
I'm a Garfield. I
Yeah,
love it.
'cause that's how my people
he's the
sound.
reason why I would actually go see this Garfield movie. I think he's great. He'd be great.
He's like,
I mean, who else could it be? Like
I mean,
Keanu Reeves?
Yeah.
That's Garfield.
whoa.
Kevin Hart.
It has to be like a monotone. Wasn't Garfield like monotone?
Yeah.
Like just very. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. Now, who'd you get to voice John, his owner? And we'll find out. Anyway. All right, guys, listen, with that down, we still got to talk about some big, serious A-list actors are being told to, hey, get ready, the strike's about to end. We're going to discuss that. Also, Deadpool 3 is not going to be the title of that film, confirms the director. But before we get to those, we're going to take just a quick second and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Our friends at Quip and the maker of the most comfortable shoes I've ever worn, Vessi. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Quip. Guys, you know that good health starts with good habits, and Quip makes it easy by delivering all the oral care essentials that you need to care for your mouth. For example, their incredible electric toothbrush. Guys, I've been using electric toothbrushes for years, and this is easily the best one I've ever owned. Timed sonic vibrations with 30-second pulses to guide a dentist-recommended 2-minute clean. A lightweight and sleek design for adults and kids with no wires or bulky charger to weigh you down. Reusable handles in a range of sleek metal hues as well as bright plastic colors sure to make a pop on your bathroom counter. Skip the batteries and snap into healthy habits with the new rechargeable electric toothbrush. All the features of the original Quip plus one magnetic charge powers up to 3 months of brushing. In addition to brush heads, Quip also delivers fresh floss, toothpaste, mouthwash, and gum refills every 3 months from just $7. So if you go to getquip.com/Campea right now, you'll get 20% off any electric toothbrush, mint and gum dispenser, or water flosser. That's your 20% off any electric toothbrush, mint and gum dispenser, water flosser at getquip.com/Campea. That's GETQUIP.com/Campea. Quip, the good habits company. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Vessi. Now, you guys know I'm not exactly the most fashion-conscious guy in the world, but I love a great pair of shoes that are comfortable and I can wear almost anywhere. And growing up in Canadian winters when my feet got wet a lot, waterproof would be nice too. Enter Vessi. They make the claim that they're not just fashionable and super comfortable, they're also waterproof. Now, you guys remember, when I got my first pair of Vessis, I put them to the ultimate waterproof test. I actually stuck my foot in my pool, my feet stayed dry, and the shoes stayed dry. Incredible. And they're the most comfortable pair of shoes I ever owned. Well, that made me want another pair. So I got another pair of Vessis that look great and just equal that world-class comfort that I got from that first pair of shoes. They are absolutely my favorite shoes that I've ever owned. Imagine your favorite sneaker style supercharged with waterproof technology and unmatched comfort. No matter how you like to stay active, Vessi has the shoes for you. Trail-ready high tops, effortless slip-ons, and classic court shoes, all with a waterproof twist. They are just as comfortable and stylish as your favorite sneakers, but even more versatile. So guys, if you're anything like me and you want the most comfortable pair of shoes that look great, that you can take out hiking, wear to work, go to the gym, or walk through the water and snow, go to Vessi.com/Campea and get yourself a pair today. Go to Vessi.com/Campea and get 15% off your order using the code Campea. And thank you to our friends at Quip and Vessi for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? The writer's strike has gone on far too long. And then the actor strike went on far too long. And here we are, still. We're at day 110. I think we're on day... It's been 84 years. I think it's day 110 that we've been in with the actor strike. Everything shut down, of course. But behold, a glimmer of hope. The other day, we heard reports coming out that they have made significant progress in their discussions and that the strike could end soon. They've kept at the negotiating table. As of right now, the strike is still going on. I will tell you that what I heard was this, and we'll find out in the coming days how accurate this is. But what I heard was that the Screen Actors Guild, the actors, made a significant concession. Because remember, I'm always talking about in negotiations, you're never going to get a situation where everybody's happy. Like my real estate agent once told me, you had a good negotiation when everybody's a little bit unhappy. And so SAG made a really good step. They said, we'll make a big concession. And apparently they made some significant concessions on residuals. So now it's the studio's turn to make a concession. And that's been the holdup point, apparently, has been AI. But according to a new report that's come out, they've been hammering on AI, and maybe they've made a little bit of progress. And some of the major actors are now being told to get ready for the strike to end. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, who wrote this. Things are looking a little less scary for Halloween this Halloween night, or this was for Hollywood this Halloween night. This came out last night. While expressing that talks are headed in the right direction, one studio side source says it could take a few days to work through the remaining issues. Two additional studio side sources said that talks are progressing overall in a substantive way and that a deal could be imminent. Multiple prominent actors said that they have received word that a deal could be at hand soon as well. Both sides are facing pressure to reach a new 3-year agreement in a timely manner. The studios have expressed to the union that their 2024 film slates and television seasons, by the way, will be in jeopardy if a deal is not reached this week. So, studio comes out before the weekend and says, hey guys, we've got a week to get this done, or else we've lost our upcoming movie schedule and we've lost our television season. So we have no motivation to even talk anymore until January unless we can get a deal done this week. So let's get at it. So the actors, what happened? The actors in the studios got their asses in the room. They sat down, and it sounds like a lot of really good progress is being made. As a matter of fact, at one point we heard that the CEOs of the studios have even left the negotiations because now it was just down to the lawyers to work out the details. Now, we are still now here on a Wednesday with no deal. But we continue to hear these signs, Rob, that it sounds like a deal could be right around the corner. It sounds like the actors made concessions. It sounds like the studio is hopefully, because they got to get off this AI thing. They really do. They got to give the actors this. They might be heading in that direction. Rob, we're now probably 3 or 4 days away before that drop dead date that they got to have a deal by if they're going to save the television season. Are we going to get a deal in time?
I don't think so.
Really?
I mean, even if we get a deal and they, Hollywood is not a business that can just jump the next day and start shooting. I mean, I would say if we had a deal at the beginning of this week, maybe. But even if we have a deal that's tentatively, it's not like the writers, where the writers can go and start writing in a room. This is actors to get back to work. You have to crew up, unless they've already been doing that. You have all these organizational things that have to come into play to start shooting. Now, maybe there are people that, knowing this is going to, maybe studios have already started to ramp up and they've already got crews working or in anticipation that they can go back to work. I don't know if that's the case. And if that is the case, maybe they can get back to work. Maybe Monday is a day that people are prepped and ready to go. But I don't know if that's possible. And even if there's a deal today, can they get back to work in a week, in 2 weeks? You need to prep before you start shooting.
Well, my assumption has been when they said, if we, at the end of next week, this is what they said, by the end of next week, we got to have a deal in place. I just assumed then that they've already figured out that if we have a deal in time by the end of next week, that gives us enough time to ramp everything up and get going. But if we don't have it by that deadline, we're just not going to be able to do it. But yeah, can they at least get to that deal, do you think? Does it sound like they're getting close enough to that?
Sure. I think they could get to that deal. I think they can. It's just a question of whether or not they can save the season. And does it make sense? Because you have to start and stop. I mean, clearly, you could shoot into Thanksgiving week. People have done it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and if you want, you come back to work, even shoot on a Saturday or Sunday if you had to. But with the holidays in place, it doesn't give people a lot of leeway. Hollywood likes to shut down for 2 weeks over Christmas and New Year's. So there's not a lot of real room. And then stopping and starting is never a great way. It does not save money in terms of production. So I think they're on a bubble in terms of being able to end the strike and get something done before the end of the year.
I'm going to go out on a limb. Before, I believe, Friday, we're going to be talking about the end of the strike.
I hope so.
I believe, maybe not by tomorrow, but I think by Friday, no one's told me this, I'm just guessing. I think by Friday, we're going to be talking about the end of the strike.
I hope so. And maybe then they can get started because, you have a movie like Well, we'll talk about Deadpool, but that's something that had substantial shooting already done, and we don't know how long they have left on their schedule, but they could probably get a lot finished if they're ready to go.
Well, we talked about this yesterday, actually. The studio announced that they are going to go back into production on Deadpool 3 in January. Because even if the strike ends today, to your point, it's going to take them a while to get everybody's schedules realigned, everything ready to go again, because people who are their crew members are probably going to be working on other things for a little bit. So it's going to take a little while to ramp it all
Yeah,
back
and there were movies like Dead Reckoning Part 2 that had begun production. I interviewed on Designing Hollywood. One of the costume designer was telling me that, it's we were starting, but now we're down.
Yeah. So hopefully that can all get going pretty quick. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? As we've mentioned a couple times on today, Deadpool 3. My single most anticipated movie between now and the next 20 years. I can't think of a movie that I'm more excited to see than Deadpool 3 for many different reasons. First of all, it's got my good Canadian kid Ryan Reynolds in there. You got Hugh Jackman returning as Wolverine. We're going to see the two of them on screen again. Of course, it's going to be the first time that we see Deadpool come into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's going to eviscerate the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is going to be fun. I mean, so many different reasons. And the combination of Ryan Reynolds and Sean Levy working together has been really good. That Adam Project movie they did together about a year or two ago, that movie didn't have any business being any good. And it was pretty fun. It was really good. Certainly a step up from Ryan's other Netflix movie, Red Notice, which, we won't talk about. But Adam Project, really fun. Sean and him have done a really good job. And they worked on Free Guy together.
Yeah.
And I loved Free Guy. That movie's so good. So I can't wait to see what they do on this. Well, according to the director, Sean, Deadpool 3 is in fact not going to be called Deadpool 3. That's not going to be the title, which I'm a little bit disappointed by. I just think you should call it Deadpool 3, but there might be some logic behind this. This comes from CBM, who wrote the following. In a separate interview with The Wrap, Levy confirmed that Deadpool 3 will not be the movie's final title. No, he said, there's no title yet. I sometimes refer to it as Deadpool versus Wolverine, or Deadpool and Wolverine, or Deadpool 3 with Wolvie. We've got a few titles we've been bandying about, but boy, it's a tough one. Specific lot details remain a mystery for now, but Wade and Wolvie are expected to find themselves trapped in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, I remember back shortly after they announced this movie, I think one of our viewers sent in a super chat and said, hey, do you think they could name it Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine? And I at the time said, no. It's Deadpool 1, it's Deadpool 2, it's Deadpool 3. I think it's going to be Deadpool 3. Well, clearly that's not the case. Clearly Sean Levy is saying, no, we're going to give it. And, maybe that's a reflection, not so much of the movie, but maybe that's just a reflection of hey, we're at Marvel now. This isn't the old Fox movie. This is a new thing. It's a new beginning. I don't know what it is. So anyway, Rob, what do you think about the fact that Deadpool 3 is not going to be called Deadpool 3? And do you have any guesses what they might actually end up calling it?
It makes sense to me because it doesn't quite, it's a different kind of a movie. It's a transitional movie. I mean, I'd love to see, Deadpool 3 makes sense, but I think knowing Ryan Reynolds, knowing Hugh Jackman, knowing these characters, they've got to come up with a name that puts a smile on everyone's face because the movie deserves it. I mean, I don't know. If they hadn't already made this skating movie, they could call it Blades of Glory. I don't know because
I don't think Will Ferrell and John Heder will have a problem with that.
I don't know. But it's going to be something great. Thrice Upon a Time. I don't know. It is a multiverse time travel extravaganza after all.
Well, that's the name.
Multiverse extravaganza.
Yeah, there you go.
Deadpool, Wolverine, the multiverse extravaganza.
Yeah.
Okay. Ray, you had an idea for a...
No, I didn't. I actually have been thinking, and I can't think of anything.
It's funny, when the cameras aren't on, Ray has tons of ideas.
Yeah, tons of ideas that shouldn't be anywhere in a movie.
I mean, I hope they don't go like a straight vanilla Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah.
Like, I could see having Wolverine in the title, I guess. Deadpool versus Wolverine. We've had a lot of that. Alien versus Predator, Batman versus Superman. maybe don't go that. I'm now fixated on Blades of Glory, though. I am now going to.
I mean, can you see it? You know, swords versus snake.
I can totally see the title art in my head. I can totally see it.
I mean, that could be a fake poster they do for the ad campaign.
Oh, that would be so funny.
I mean, if they did a whole bunch of like, and because you could imagine Deadpool on ice skates, you know, and Wolverine like, ooh.
By the way,
He is, after all, Canadian, so he can skate.
That's
Both
right.
of them can skate.
hey, as stated in the first Deadpool movie, Wade Wilson from Regina, Saskatchewan, which I lived in the city right beside Regina, Saskatoon for a bunch of years, but he's from Regina, Saskatchewan. There you go. So he knows hockey.
Wolverine knows Alpha Flight. So, you know, the Weapon X program.
If Peter Dinklage shows up as Puck, I'm going to lose my mind.
Oh, dude. You know what? I never thought about that, but that would be dope. In the outfit and everything.
I mean, who would you get to be? I don't want.
You know what? You know what? You have just made me. I am now convinced that Alpha Flight is going to appear in this movie. I'm convinced.
I mean, but here's
Some
the thing.
form of it.
I've thought about that, but there's nothing Canadian about this movie. Like, it's not like it's taking place in Canada or anything like that.
That we know of.
That we know of.
Alkali Lake.
But it's also packed. This movie, we know Halle Berry. I keep wanting to say Barry is going to be in it. We know Jennifer. They've confirmed Jennifer Garner is going to be in it. Patrick Stewart has hinted that he's going to be in it. Patrick Stewart has hinted that Ian McKellen may actually be in it. I mean, so it just already starting to feel like it's to also then bring in Alpha Flight, which, by the way, none of the audience is going to know. Like, who's Sasquatch? I mean, it just like, what's a Vindicator?
He's real.
They're gonna say it just like that in the theater.
Who's Sasquatch?
Dude, I will say this.
Where's Lando?
I will say this. They are, you know, they reprint Marvel omnibuses.
Yes.
They are reprinting the Alpha Flight omnibus.
There you go.
There you go.
I'm just
You heard it here
saying.
first, folks.
I'm just saying that John Byrne run on Alpha Flight, one of my favorite comic runs.
Deadpool 3, the Quickening.
They're reprinting it.
Quickening.
Does that take?
They're reprinting it.
that
Just
a thing?
saying. Not that I pay attention to
Deadpool
those
3,
things, but I do. Of course,
Dances
they're also reprinting ROMs.
Dances with Wolves.
With
That's
Wolverine.
never been
Deadpool
taken.
3 Dance. It's never been a movie title.
Actually, that's a great fake poster too.
Dances with
Wolverine.
Wolves.
Blades of Glory and Dances with Wolves. Dude, they're gonna do that. They're gonna make a Dances
Ryan,
with
do
Wolves
it.
poster. That's
And
a great
Pound
idea.
Town, of course. as Jonathan's family here has kind of set off.
Goodfellas.
Deadpool 3 Pound Town.
Deadpool 3, Goodfellas.
Just Goodfellas.
And have Martin Scorsese
You know
on
what?
the poster.
We're having so much trouble right now. I can't imagine Sean Levy's work and trying to find.
Can you imagine a
He's
room?
watching us right now, trying to figure out.
Ryan
how to-
Reynolds and Sean Levy and Hugh Jackman sitting around just trying to come up with a title for this thing.
It's tough because I'm actually really trying to think of a serious one, and I can't other than Mutant Mayhem, which is taken already.
I mean, I don't think one of the things I absolutely think should not be in the title, dead serious, anything that says multiverse. Because
No.
I think multiverse has not worked.
What about any reference to X-Men?
I mean, sure.
Okay.
Yes.
You're
I mean,
good
look,
with
you
that?
got Wolverine.
Right.
You've got an X family member already there with Deadpool. You're talking about bringing a lot of the other X characters in. X Origins or Deadpool Extreme. Well, that's actually the name of the team. So I don't know.
I think they should do a whole series of fake posters like Blades of Glory.
Oh, I think
like,
they will.
I mean, that would, you know, I think that's
right,
Dances with Wolves is hilarious. Because I'm convinced if Taylor Swift plays Dazzler, there's got to be a musical number.
Ooh, I think I read that Sean Levy's debunked that.
Oh.
Now, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe
I'm sad.
that the newest report going around, I cannot remember where it came from, but is that Taylor Swift is not playing Dazzler, but will actually play herself, which you could do something very interesting with that.
Yeah, you can.
But I mean, who knows? Guys, question is for you. I jump down into the comments. Somebody just said, who is in the live chat, said Deadpool, I think it was Zaku, right? Deadpool, Children of the Atom. That's actually a really good title, but it's too serious for a Deadpool movie. Otherwise, that would actually be a pretty darn.
And that was an X-Men comic.
Yeah, Children of the Atom Project.
Yeah, that's a totally X-Men sort of
Children
title.
of the Atom Project.
Alpha Flight versus X-Force is one that's going to Deadpool. Well, no. Kevin Rubio, our friend Kevin, is saying Electric Boogaloo. That's only counts if it's Deadpool 2. You can't say Electric Boogaloo unless it's the second film in a thing.
Deadpool 3, the cash grab.
The cash grab. Why not? Or what did Yogurt say? The search for more money.
Yeah. The search for money.
Spaceballs 2. The search for more money. Anyway,
merchandising.
with that down, guys, we are now going to go over and hear from you. What do you have to say about any of the topics that we discussed? Any topics that you'd like to bring up? Also hear from our YouTube channel members. But before we do, we're going to take another quick second here and thank a couple of more sponsors of today's episode. Our friends at Marine Lair and my mobile service provider, speaking of Ryan Reynolds, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Marine Lair. It's official, guys. I have found the softest t-shirt of all time, so soft, it's ridiculous. All thanks to the San Francisco-based Marine Lair. Marine Lair is the go-to brand for great fitting and stylish closet staples. Their clothes are that perfect mix of laid-back style and also looks and feels premium. It's time to invest in a wardrobe that will actually last. For a limited time, the John Campea Show viewers and listeners get an exclusive 15% off with the code Campea15 at marinelair.com. Now, guys, you know I am not the most fashionable guy in the world, but I appreciate a good looking shirt, but more importantly, I appreciate a comfortable shirt. And the shirts that I've got from Marine Lair fit both of those beautifully. And they've even got sizes like Marge, which is in between medium and large, so everyone can get their perfect fit. The best part, if you buy any 3 tees from Marine Lair, you automatically get 20% off. And Marine Lair goes way beyond just t-shirts too. They've got super laid back overshirts, pants, jackets, and all the cozy layers you want for the cooler seasons. I think we can all admit that the perfect tee can be hard to find. Look no further than Marine Lair. For a limited time, get 15% off with the code Campea15 at marinelair.com. That's Campea15 for 15% off your entire order at marinelair.com. Saving your closet one shirt at a time. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Sure, it looks like fun at first. They probably even threw in a free phone, but now you can't get off. Month after month of insane bills and unexpected thrills, like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You guys know before I came to Mint Mobile, I was paying triple what I am paying now on the standard big wireless plan, and I will never go back. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped right to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Marine Lair and Mint Mobile for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over and hear what you guys who are watching live in the Super Chats have to say. Jonathan, what do we got up first?
Crazy timing. This was like an hour ago Caleb wrote this, but I finally watched Mutant Mayhem. I like it. They definitely do more like this movie. My favorite Ryan Reynolds movie is Just Friends. Or they definitely should do more like this movie.
I'll tell you what. I am planning on doing either a new series of videos or maybe a separate podcast altogether that I think I'm going to call Make Me Laugh, which is just going to be me revisiting like what I find to be some of the funniest movies ever made. And Just Friends is absolutely going to be one of those movies. Just Friends is was Amy Smart that's in that with Ryan Reynolds?
Right.
And Chris Pratt's ex-wife, Anna Faris.
Anna Faris
is in it. It's forgiveness. If you guys have not seen Just Friends, Ryan Reynolds in a fat suit, you really should. It's a charming, funny,
I remember that one. Okay.
really, really funny movie, endearing. And if you have not seen it, you should check it out. All right, what's next?
We got Wild Beast who writes, why does the Marvel fake death universe like going to this well so much? I hope they don't revive Black Widow, Iron Man, Wanda, etc. Do you think they will actually do this? And how do you feel about it?
Yes. Yeah. Marvel fake death universe, man. It is what it is. But look, I've told you guys forever. At some point, Robert Downey Jr. will be back. I'm not saying it's this year. I'm not saying it's next year. It could be 7 years from now. He'll be back. He will. I don't think Black Widow's coming back there. I honestly think Bob Chapek cooked that bridge when, he refused to pay her and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that she'll come back for that. Maybe a new Black Widow, whatever. But, I mean, how many times has Loki died? 5? Or something like that. I lost
Add
count.
one more after last week.
Yeah, after last week, one more. Which, by the way, tomorrow, the finale. Very excited to see what they
Is there only 5? No, isn't there 2 more left?
I thought there's 2.
Two.
more left.
Oh, is there 2 left?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's 2 left.
Oh, how many episodes are there altogether?
There's
6.
And we're only 4 in.
Yeah.
I thought we were 5 in.
No.
Oh, okay. So we got 2 more to go. Well, that's
Yeah.
actually that's good to me. But Gen V, by the way, what do you guys think of my my sweater that Ann got me? I love this. Gen V's finale is tomorrow.
Was that 8 episodes?
I think so. They launched with the first 3.
Yeah, that's
I think,
right.
yeah, something like that. Anyway, what were we even talking about?
Oh,
yeah,
it's a
Robert
finale
Downey-
of Invasion, too. Tonight, baby.
That's
Come on.
right.
Bro, you know it starts in 9 days, right?
Okay, but, okay.
For all mankind.
That's right.
All right, what's next?
Caleb says it's hilarious. Meet my dog Oscar. Meet my dog box office. I love that joke. It made me laugh.
Okay, look. Let me reemphasize this point here. Sometimes people will say some pretty cruel things and then say, well, it's just a joke. Okay, yeah, okay, whatever. Not only was it just a joke, it was a harmless joke. It's not like he said, this is my dog. Martin Scorsese's an asshole. Hi, Martin Scorsese's an asshole. How you doing, Martin? Like, if he did something like that, sure, but it was number 1, a joke, and number 2, a harmless joke. And there are so many people out in Hollywood right now tripping over themselves to lick Martin Scorsese's ass that they're like way overreacting to what Joe Russo said. I mean, it's quite frankly pathetic and laughable, but whatever. All right, what's next?
Patrick Hamilton is next and says, not sure if you've seen the article from Variety in which they talked about a previous treatment of the Blade script in which it was more female-led and had Blade as the 4th lead. What's your thoughts?
So here's my take on this. I do not mind. Actually, I find it kind of refreshing sometimes taking a significant character and making them just a part of the ensemble. I don't mind that, actually. I think that could be creative and kind of interesting. Tell it from the perspective of
Creed.
the guy in the chair. What's that?
Creed.
Creed is kind of the first Creed at any rate is really
Yeah.
kind of a good example of that. But if you're going to call it Blade,
Yep.
make it about Blade.
Yeah.
Otherwise call it Blades.
Yeah.
Of glory.
What's that?
Of glory.
Blades, ... of glory. What was it? The one you-
Bladies.
By the way, what was the title Ray came up with again for Deadpool 3 when we were off air? And I said that was perfect, and I can't remember what it
Cinema.
was.
He said Deadpool 3 Cinema.
Deadpool 3 : Cinema. That was a perfect title for it. Yeah, so I'm perfectly fine like having Blade in a movie, but he's more of a secondary character. I'm good with that, unless you call the movie Blade, in which it should be about Blade. Anyway, because
definitely.
that was one of the big problems with Blade 3. I mean, there were a lot of problems with Blade 3, but one of the things was it was called Blade, but it was really about the Night Stalkers, right? It was really about Hannibal Caine and whatever Mrs. Justin Timberlake, I can't remember, Jessica Biel. About and her lightsabers. It was really more about them than anything else. But all right, what's next?
All right, we got Jim who says, any thoughts on Variety's article, Crisis at Marvel?
I read it this morning. There's a whole bunch in it, but every single thing that's in that article we've talked about before, right? What's really interesting about the article, though, and I'll probably talk about this in open mic a little bit later, is the fact that they kind of draw this line that basically all the problems are connected to the 2020 decision made by Bob Chapek to flood everything with Marvel content, and particularly Disney Plus. And this article kind of starts, when you see somebody putting together a conspiracy theory and they put the yarn strings on the wall, that's kind of what it is. All the string in this Variety article seemed to go back to that decision about and how it caused a lot of the different problems. But I want to read it again. I read it rather quickly this morning as I was getting ready for the show. I'll take a look at it again. All right, what's next?
Mark Boyle says Avengers versus Scorsese crew, which would be De Niro, Liotta, Pesci, Baracco, DiCaprio, Daniel Day-Lewis, and oh my God, it's Matt Damon. So like they form their own like Scorsese
Their own little Avengers. Well, one of them's retired. Daniel Day-Lewis is retired.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
One's
Greatest
gone.
actor of all time. All right, what's next?
Marl Jehovah writes, "Hey, Campea crew, 22 years ago I saw to me the greatest war movie series to ever
Band of
have been
Brothers.
made, Band of Brothers. I love that series. I still go back and watch it.
It's great.
Now I found out Spielberg will be releasing Masters of the Aaron.
Probably air
Yeah,
in
it's air.
January.
Oh. Oh yeah, in January 2024. I can't wait. Your thoughts, bring on the filthy. So it'll be about the Air Force.
The Band of Brothers was a pivotal kind of like the way Oliver Stone's
Platoon.
Yeah, Platoon. Like kind of like the way Platoon kind of defined that genre of movie at that time. Band of Brothers kind of was that. You know, I remember a lot of people thinking that a lot more either miniseries or series like Band of Brothers would rush out, but it never really did because I don't know if anybody thought they could top it. So, I mean, seeing go back to something like that in that same kind of vein is kind of inspiring.
And a lot of actors got their start
Yep.
in that show.
And
All
they did make the Pacific after that, but a lot of people
That's right.
complained that it wasn't as
Yeah.
it wasn't historically accurate. But Band of Brothers, you brought back Easy Company or whatever, and you were interviewing them and
Yep.
coming off the heels of Saving Private Ryan. It was incredible. I can't wait to see Masters of the Air.
All right, what's next?
Luke says, morning show season 3 is fine. AF TV Prime at the MO.
Moment.
I first of all, morning show is way better than I thought it would be. Like I kind of wrote it off when I first heard them talking about it, and then I actually watched a few episodes and I got hooked. I have not seen any of season 3, to be honest with you, so I can't comment on that. But I'm really a big fan of it. Season 1, the character arc they took Steve Carell on was incredible in that show. It's really good. But again, I have not seen any of season 3 yet. All right, what's next?
Disgraceful Entertainment says Deadpool v Wolverine, Dawn of Justice.
Yeah, I think that would be really funny. I don't see them doing
They'll
that.
make that poster though.
They will absolutely make the poster. I'll be down for it. All right, what's next?
Aspor writes, Deadpool 3, Deadpool kills the Fox universe.
The funny thing is,
Might not be far off.
that's kind of my theory. And again, I have nothing to back this up with. This is just me fan speculating like everybody does. I think the villain of this film is going to be the mouthless Deadpool or a Deadpool in one universe who realized he never got to be in the MCU because of the X-Men in his own universe. And he decides that if he kills all the X-Men, then he'll get to go to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then our Deadpool and that universe's Wolverine have to team up to try to stop him. Again, I have nothing to base that on. It's just kind of my guess. So if that is true, Wolverine kills or Deadpool kills the X-Men universe would make sense. All right, what's next?
We've got Caleb, Deadpool enters the Marvel universe.
What is that? What is
Title, Deadpool enters the Marvel universe.
Title, Deadpool enters the... a little too on the nose.
Yep.
A little too on the nose. All right, what's
Dr.
next?
Stinky, I'm bored. Here's $2. Buy a Diet Coke, or in your case, a Diet Pepsi.
Thank you for the support, Dr. Stinky. All right, let's go over to our YouTube channel members, shall we? What do we got up next?
Amin writes, first trailer for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is releasing tomorrow.
Really?
Ooh.
Although I think some of those new ape films weren't as good as they should have been, I still enjoyed them, especially the first and second one. I love the second one.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what they do with the new one. What are your expectations at the trailer or for the trailer and the film overall?
Oddly enough, it's a good thing that I don't have really any expectations. I kind of went, they're making another one, whatever. I mean, I'm like you. I love the first one. I love the second one. I really did not like the third one. I thought the third one was actually quite a bad film. But I love the first two. This is a new filmmaker. It's obviously a new cast of characters, all this kind of stuff.
Is it in that world or is it a different
I
universe?
believe it's in the same
Yeah.
world, but
Okay.
like 100 years later or
Oh, okay.
something like that. I can't remember. But maybe it's a good thing I got no expectations going into it. I didn't even realize I had a trailer coming out. Rob, what about you?
I'm a huge Planet of the Apes fan. It's funny because when I talk about my favorite franchises, I always forget about Planet of the Apes, but it was been there since I was a kid. You know, I've loved it. Seeing the first Planet of the Apes when I was 5 years old changed my life. And I was adamantly opposed to these new Apes movies until I saw Rise. I thought Rise of the Planet of the Apes was incredible. I thought what they did with the apes and Andy Serkis and the orangutan, all of that was amazing. And then Dawn and War, I did think was disappointing because it was built up as one thing, and I thought it was kind of a bait and switch.
It was a huge bait and switch.
And I thought that it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't great. It could have been great, but I still like it. It's no Battle for the Planet of the Apes, which is a good thing. So I'm really excited for this. I didn't realize we were going to see it this soon. Fingers are crossed. Confidence is high, but I'm going to be very disappointed if it's not good.
All right, what's next?
King Daddy Goat says, "Hey crew, I hope all is well. I'm seeing Marvel is considering a new Avengers movie with the original cast. For one, I'm all for it, but I know I'm only one opinion. Do you think this is a good idea to recycle the past? It seems to lead to good numbers at least. Anyway, what's your guys' thoughts? Thanks, bring on the film."
By the way, you're not reading that from any reputable site. By reputable, I mean like the major trades, right? Not to say just anything, but the major trades is unreputable. I'm just saying you're not reading that in the major trades. But I will say this. I know something that I am not allowed to say. And what can I hint at, suggest? Let me put it this way. I think there may be a kernel of truth to that, maybe. But I want to say this about the comic book genre. Every genre has its own unique aspects to it, right? Like in most genres, you need to do several things well to make a good movie. In the comedy genre, you can do everything wrong. But if you make the audience laugh, that's all you need to do. You're fine, right? So every genre has its own kind of little things. The comic book genre has same sort of things, like things that if you did them in other genres, I would say that's a bad thing. But doing it in the comic book genre, it may work. For example, we talk about going back to the past, like Iron Man or Captain America, whatever. You do got to keep in mind that Iron Man maybe has been around in the MCU for 13 years. He's been around in the comic books since before you were alive. And still rolling. Steve Rogers has been around weekly in comic books with a few breaks here and there since longer than any of us have been alive. Spider-Man has been rocking and rolling, doing his thing. It wasn't just when Tobey Maguire popped up. He's been around in stories for decades and decades and decades and decades and decades. It's stuff that the comic book genre does. And because of that, it's a little bit more forgivable if they were to do something like that. Rob, what do you think about that?
Well, when does Raiders of the Lost Ark take place? 1936.
Right.
When does the second film, Temple of Doom, take place?
Before that, doesn't it?
In 1935.
Right.
Who's to say that Avengers Kang Dynasty doesn't take place pre-Infinity War? You could make an entire movie, a Kang Dynasty movie, just because we haven't seen Kang fight the Avengers doesn't mean they didn't fight him or have some conflict with him. So you could easily make an Avengers movie that's set between Avengers or Age of Ultron, or between Age of Ultron and Infinity War. You could just find a place and make an Avengers movie that took place before. There's no one says you can't. And if you're making Secret Wars, the ramifications of this Avengers movie that happened back in the past lead into Secret Wars, which leaps over everything that's happened, which could add more poignance to what's going on because it was designed correctly. We know the intervening things that happened, but we see a story that we just haven't seen with classic Avengers that have ramifications that lead into Secret Wars, and they're of a piece. They could easily do something like that.
They could.
I don't know if they would.
Because if it goes slightly wrong, that could become really convoluted. Like to the audience at any rate. I mean, if you nail it, it could be really good.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason to say that you can't make an Avengers movie that just, I mean, we only saw like a couple of days in the life of the Avengers over 4 movies. They have years. They could have been the event. We don't know.
I mean, I personally don't like the idea of going backwards in most film franchises.
Sure.
I mean, look, one of the things they could do is a very simple thing. They've done the comic books, and even the CW DC verse did it. Remember, they had the multiverse, and then in the Arrowverse, they brought it all into one universe, and they brought in characters who were in different universes. Now they just all inhabit the same thing. If they really want to bring back Robert Downey Jr., he's from one of the other Earths, he's from one of the other universes, and he's now part of this merged timeline. Now he's here. I mean, so it's not difficult for them to do with the whether they tell one that's pre or post. You know,
I mean,
those
the
events.
biggest, I think the biggest obstacle the MCU has was they leaned into how interconnected it all was. And then I haven't read this article, but I would imagine then Bob Chapek said, okay, you guys have planned all this, and now we need you to do 10 times what you were doing before in the same amount of time. And they just didn't have enough opportunity, and then things were not as smooth as they thought, like COVID happened. So I think that, you know, you could do anything you want if you have the time and you have the creativity.
All right, we got time for a couple more. What's next?
Mr. Kitty says, hey, John, what are your predictions on how Loki Season 2 will impact the MCU going forward? Will this lead us directly into Deadpool 3? Thanks, and bring on the filthy.
No, it won't. I do not believe it's going to have really anything to do with Deadpool 3. I mean, most of the stuff in the MCU in the last number of years has really, and I say this is a good thing, has really stood on its own, right? So you watch Shang-Chi, it's a movie that really completely stands on its own. You watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it's a movie that completely stands on its own. Will there be some things that have relevance to the rest of the MCU? I'm sure. But do I think that the finale of Loki is going to directly lead into Deadpool 3? No, I don't. I think if anything, really, it's just going to mainly establish Kang as the MCU's main villain. But I think that's the extent of it, right? I don't think it's going to be much more than that. I don't know, Rob, how do you see that?
Yeah, I don't. Again, I can't. He keeps getting defeated. And I'm like, how they have not established, I don't think, they've established Kang as a credible threat. I don't think anyone's really excited about, I love Jonathan Majors and I love him as a performer, but they haven't allowed him to be this malevolent force that you believe is unstoppable. He keeps getting stopped.
Guillaume LaBelle is saying Kang is the new Kenny.
You killed Kang!
Now, by the way, a couple of people in the live chat, including like UDR, are saying, well, the TVA's in Deadpool 3. We don't actually know that. I know that's been run a lot. I know a lot, but remember, there was a lot of stuff that ran in a lot of headlines for Doctor Strange 2 that never happened. There was a lot of stuff that ran in a lot of headlines for Thor Love and Thunder that never happened. I know there's been a lot of people talking that TVA is going to be in Deadpool 3. We don't actually know that for a fact. It very well could. I'm not saying it's not. Very well could. I'm just saying don't, it's best not to assume anything at this point. So we'll see. All right, what's next?
Culture Wars Diplomacy writes, hey, John, like the John Wicks, love Highlander. So what do you mean by John Wick with swords? I'm hopeful, but that is a question I have. We might disagree on stuff. Highlander being awesome is one that we agree on.
I think when they say John Wick with swords, what I don't think they're just talking about the action. I don't think they're just talking about wild action. When you look at John Wick, what makes John Wick a truly special film franchise to me isn't the action. The action's incredible and it's very unique unto itself. But when you step back from the gun fu, John Wick is one of the best examples in recent years of a franchise truly world and mythology building. I remember after seeing the first John Wick, I was like, I want to know more about the Continental. I want to know about this whole system with the coins. I want to know, they didn't just build a character that could kick ass. They built a world with its own mythology and its own legends and its own everything that just really brought you in. The new Highlander thing, they're not doing it as one movie. They're doing it as a franchise. And when I hear him say it's going to be John Wick with swords, is there a partial reference there to the pure crazy action? Absolutely. Because you're going to see a Connor McLeod you're going to see fighting styles of every fighting style there is in the world. You're going to have immortals who come from all different eras, from all different parts of the world with all unique fighting styles. And we're going to see a Connor McLeod that over the centuries that he's been alive is going to accumulate and acquire all of them. So yes, action. But I also believe they're talking about building a mythology in a world that is going to be deep and it's going to be interesting. And I can't wait.
Well, it's the director, right?
Yeah. That's why. And also what
Stileski.
what I like about John Wick is that he actually goes after his target, and it's target only. Anyone who gets in his way will get some, but no one else gets him, or it gets hurt. No innocent people get hurt, whatever. Just anyone who goes after him while he's going after that guy. So I could see the Highlander going, or the person trying to get the Highlander being laser focused on getting it and just walking through everything else. I just like that part about John Wick.
All right, last question of the day. What's next?
Red One Real Talk says Halloween blessed us with the release of Across the Spider-Verse on Netflix, and while there's been stunners and killers and Oppenheimer this year, seeing Spider-Verse again reminded me of the sheer magic of this film. Not enough can be said of the imaginative brilliance and artistic might we were blessed with in this project.
It is still to me the best film of the year. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse to me is still the best cinema this year. It's not just crazy. I mean, the familial stuff that goes on, ethical and personal dilemmas faced, great character work. It's just an immersive, wonderful, wonderful film. I don't know how it ended up on Netflix. I was really surprised when I saw that it's now up on Netflix, but whatever.
It's Sony, they're feeding Netflix.
Yeah, but it had been living somewhere else. Where it had been living, where it was, because Anne had been watching it like every other day, but I can't remember where it was living. But yeah, I don't know. Rob, to me, it's the best film of the year. Still a lot of great, obviously Oppenheimer and many other great films have come out this year. But I got to tell you, for me right now, it's still the best one I've seen.
It's pretty great. It's funny that our viewer says that because last night I went to watch a movie called Fair Play, and I was like, ooh, it's Across the Spider-Verse. And I was like, click.
Yeah.
I
Right?
started, it's like it passes the HBO test. Once it's on, you're like locked in. You got to watch it. I mean, what a great movie.
And even the opening, which focuses on Gwen in the opening, and then them telling her, they tell her story in like 2 minutes about Peter, her best friend, and she inadvertently kills her own best friend, right? Like Peter becomes the lizard. And it's like this even the way they tell that, and you feel it. Like when she's looking at her friend dying, like you feel it. It's such a good movie. Such a good movie. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making the show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions, whether you're our beloved channel members or you were joining us in the live chat. Number one, because you gave us fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank the guys in the room with me. Ray Ora.
See you guys later.
Jonathan Voico.
See ya.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Deadpool don't wear plaid.
I love it. I love it. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.